Hi Orc Dorks, this is Miss Delayu, and I'm here today to talk about how to clean your instrument. I know that with all of the disease going around, we can be a little bit nervous right now about making sure that we get everything as clean as possible. So I just want to give you some tips to make sure that your instrument is clean, but also that we don't hurt it in the process. Because remember, it's very fragile and we don't want to do anything that we think will be helpful but would actually end up damaging it. So there are a couple of things that you're going to need to clean up your instrument. The first is obviously you need your instrument. So make sure that you have that by you. The next is going to be this cleaning cloth. I have my cleaning cloth right here. The third thing is some alcohol wipes. This is different from hand sanitizer or any kind of rubbing alcohol. These are just like the little pads that you get at the doctor's office where they wipe off your skin before they give you a shot or something. But we're only going to want to use those in very specific places. Grocery stores do still have these in stock, so if you don't have any at your house, your mom or dad should be able to pick some up next time they're at the grocery store. And then finally, if you have been passing your instrument around and letting a lot of other people touch it and hang out with it, and you're kind of worried that somebody might have gotten their germs on it, you can use one specific cleaning product to clean off those germs, and that's going to be Simple Green. I don't have any Simple Green at my house right now, but here's what it looks like. It's a green bottle. It says Simple Green, and it's just an all-natural cleaner so that when you're cleaning your instrument with it, there's no chemicals or anything that's getting on that might hurt the varnish on your instrument. So, today I have just my violin, but everything that I say pretty much can go for violas and cellos and basses. The only difference is that cellos and basses, you're obviously going to have an end pin instead of a chin rest. And so when you clean off that end pin, you can still use those alcohol wipes that I had just a second ago. So here's my violin. And when I'm cleaning it off, the first thing that I want to do is clean off the strings and the fingerboard and the chin rest, the tailpiece, the end button, and the pegs. So I'm going to take 2 of my alcohol wipes. I might only need 1 because I cleaned my instrument pretty recently, so it's probably not very dirty. But sometimes if you haven't cleaned your instrument in a while, you might need a couple. So I'm going to take this and just rub it over my chin rest and my tailpiece, and real gently over my end button, making sure that this wipe does not touch any part of the wood, because that wouldn't be good for the varnish. I'm going to rub it on each of my strings. It might make kind of that sound that I don't like, but that's okay. And then I'm going to rub it under the strings just to get at the fingerboard. A lot of our oils from our hands can get on that fingerboard, so if you see, mine is kind of like a brown-black now, and that's just from the oils on my hands. It doesn't mean that there's anything bad on my instrument. And then finally, I'm just going to wipe each of my pegs off. Okay, so once I'm done with that, I'm going to throw that away. I don't need the second one. And notice again that I was really careful not to let that wipe touch any part of my instrument that is wood, because anything that's shiny and wood has what we call varnish on it, and varnish is a very delicate, special kind of, it's not really a polish, but it kind of seals the instrument from damage. But because it's so delicate, if we get any kind of chemical on that varnish, then it can damage it, and eventually it'll strip it away, and then we won't be able to use that instrument anymore if it starts to disintegrate. That wouldn't be good. So there's also this handy little chart that I happened to find online that shows you which parts of your instrument it's okay to use alcohol wipes on. So anything that's green can be used with an alcohol wipe. Anything that's pink should not be used with an alcohol wipe. And you'll notice cellos and basses that the end pin part is also green. So that part's okay to wipe off with the alcohol wipe. But make sure that anything, all of the wood and especially the bridge, don't let the alcohol wipe get anywhere near that, because that will damage the wood and that wouldn't be good. So, again, I have my cleaning cloth and now I'm just going to wipe off the body of my instrument. This is also just really good to do anytime you finish practicing. We're going to wipe it off really gently. If there's a lot of rosin underneath the bridge, we're going to wipe that rosin off, and then we're going to use a different part of the cloth to wipe the rest of it so that the rosin dust doesn't accidentally scratch any part of the wood. I'm going to wipe off the back and the shoulders. I can wipe off the neck right here and then the top of the scroll. And again, if my instrument were really dirty and I were worried that it had some germs or something on it, I could use a little bit of that simple green. Don't spray it directly on your instrument, just spray a tiny bit right onto the cloth and wipe it really gently to get any of those germs off. So that's my instrument. It's pretty clean. I actually cleaned it pretty recently before I made this video, so it's already really nice and shiny. And so I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to pull my bow out. My bow, remember, you want to be really careful with your bow that you never touch the bow hair with anything except for rosin. So you don't want your fingers to touch it. You don't really want the cloth to touch it. Just rosin is the only thing that should be getting on that bow. The bow hair won't really need cleaning because hopefully nobody's been touching it, and so there shouldn't really be any germs on it anyway. But if you are worried about the stick, you can wipe the stick off with a nice dry, clean cloth, and you can tighten your bow a little bit so that that cloth can kind of get underneath and clean off all the different parts of the stick. And then one more time, if you were worried that the stick had some germs on it, you could put a little tiny bit of Simple Green onto your cleaning cloth and then wipe off your bow stick with the cloth one more time. Once you have done all of that, here's the most important part. Right now should be like the time when you are super protective of your instrument. That means mom shouldn't be touching it, dad shouldn't be touching it, little brothers and sisters, as much as they beg you, they really shouldn't be touching your instrument right now. Friends that you might see shouldn't be touching your instrument. Really, it should just be you. The best way to keep yourself and your instrument clean and safe and germ-free is just to make sure that you're the only person touching it. And as long as you're the only person touching it, then you shouldn't have any kind of problem. When you're all done touching it, put it away in its case. Don't leave it out on your bed. Make sure that you wash your hands before and after you touch your instrument so that none of the germs from anywhere else that you might have been earlier in the day are getting onto that instrument. And then you should really be good. If you are discovering that your instrument is very out of tune, like out of tune to the point where you need to ask your teacher to help you with the pegs or stuff, but you can't because you don't really see us in person right now, I have contacted your local instrument shops and asked them if it would be okay for people to bring instruments in that need help tuning, and they all said yes, absolutely. That's what they're there for. They want you to come and see them if your instrument has a problem, because they want to make sure that you can be successful and get all of your instrument stuff taken care of while we try and figure out how to do some digital learning together. So just to recap, cloth can clean off pretty much anything, but you want to make sure that if you're using any of these little wipes, that they only touch strings and parts of your instrument that are black, basically. And then anything that's wood, you can use a little bit of Simple Green on. And then, as always, don't touch the bow hair. Once you're done with all of that, put it away, wash your hands, and then make sure that you just keep your instrument in a safe place where nobody else is going to bother it or cause any kind of accidental problems for it. I will be back later in a couple of days to start talking about some practicing tips while you are at home. In the meantime, if you have any awesome practicing stories that you've already kind of experienced that you want to share below in the comments, you can do that. But until then, keep practicing.